property, can't come simple way on my driveway. How we share driveway, doesn't work. And you gotta go around your house through your property.
No fence on the back,
Like at one time, I think they were more common on some of these lots that are kind of longer and narrow. Because I know that there's quite a few along Henderson Highway, between Henderson Highway and the river, where, you know, a guy built it. We're live.
Well, we don't turn down every lot, do we?
Pretty much. Okay, if we are live and ready to go, it is 2 o'clock and I will call the meeting to order. All members of council are present today with the exception of Councillor Horvis, who advised he will be a little late this afternoon. We also have with us our CAO, Mr. Deepak Joshi, and we have our planning assistant, Heather Stanek, with us today. So with that, I will call for a resolution to adopt the agenda.
Resolve the agenda for the meeting to be adopted as circulated with the noted additions at 2:02 p.m. June 23rd, 2020.
Okay, can I have a mover? Councillor Gazarovich, second. Councillor Strang, Councillor Sutherland.
I just have to, a resident concern I'd like to bring up later.
Is it a resident concern? Okay, does it have to be in camera or can
No.
I just bring it up?
No.
Okay, so
We can do it either or.
can we add that to the agenda then, a resident concern? And where is that concern? In your area or what area?
Yeah, that's up by, at the beaches.
At the beach area?
It's, 101, I believe, you know, the old gravel pit, Girl Thomas used to haul over there. It's
Okay,
very simple. We usually have it blocked off,
yeah,
and it's
Okay.
muddy, and there's all kinds of garbage, and they're hauling fish guts. Anyway, I'll bring it up.
okay, perfect. So it's a resident concern in cottage country.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else? Any other additions to the agenda? Any deletions from the agenda? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. We have 2 sets of minutes to adopt. We have our regular meeting from June the 9th and committee of the whole from June the 16th. And if I will have the resolution, please.
Resolved the minutes of June 9th, 2020 Committee of the Whole and June 16th, 2020 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented.
Moved by Councillor Belanger, second Councillor Spicer. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
Just in regards to our councillor reports,
Yes?
I did not attend the Rochelle Squires Municipal Relations Zoom meeting,
Okay.
and I think there's a few of us on there. I attended the 2050 Winnipeg Metro webinar,
Okay.
and yes, I believe the only councillor that attended that was Councillor Mazerovich.
With Rochelle Squires?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so if we could make a note, go ahead, Deepak.
Just an error in the resolution I just read. I apologize, but I think the dates are June 9th is for the regular meeting and June 16th was the Committee of the Whole.
Thank you for that. Okay, anything else, any other corrections or deletions or additions to the minutes from the 2 meetings that we have? Hearing and seeing none, I do have a mover, I have a seconder, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. We have no delegations, so we will move on to communicate. We have no communications for action, so we'll move on to number 6 on our agendas, new and other business. South St. Clements Activity Center Site Works Tender, and we have some administrative comments there along with some documents kind of outlining how the work will proceed. But if I could ask our CAO to please go over that and add any other comments he may have.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is information for council to know that the tender is being posted and some information as to the schedule associated with this. For council's information, the tender has been prepared and the tender will be posted on Merck's on July 22nd. It'll be for a 2 to 3 week period. The tender will close on August the 12th, and the contract will be awarded August 25th. The construction start date is September 1st. The reason for July the 22nd is that there needs to be enough time for the drainage of the pond and for the site to dry out. And that's also for the applicants or the people responding to the tender to be able to show up on site and take a look and be able to do their own due diligence as necessary.
If it quits raining every day.
Pardon me, Councillor?
We get a little shower of rain almost every day down there.
Lately, yes. It's been a wet June, certainly. The cost estimate of this development has also increased that council needs to be aware of. Scatliffe has found that the bids coming in this year are higher for wetland preparation and seeding than they were shown in the original estimates in April. And so they are seeing an increase in about $45,000 to $50,000 range. It should be noted that this increase will be covered and can be covered with the 10% contingency that was identified as part of the original budget.
Thank you for that. Any questions or comments from members of council to our CAO? Go ahead, Councillor Spicer, and then Councillor Strang.
A comment and a question.
Sure.
And this is not nitpicky, just to make sure that there's no problems in the end. In the tender documents, I just noticed a typo, and it's about the warranty. It says it's warranted for 2 years, but then it's got, the number is 1 year. So you might want to have them.
Very good catch, Councillor, thank you.
Just so there's no, well, it said 1, problems. The other question I had was, on the power connection, so are we doing just what we need to do for now, or are we putting in power that would support the building in the future?
As I recall from some of the discussions, and I can verify that information for you, Councillor, and send you an email back and all of council.
Yeah.
But my recollection from some of the discussions is that the power is coming in once.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Strang.
I just have a question. Did we get our licensing yet? Would you know from?
I received an email for some clarifications as of yesterday, or sorry, two days ago, and I've responded back yesterday, and I've spoken with the approver, and they said that once those questions were answered, they'd sign off. They're relatively simple questions. One was a clarification on that this is truly RM land. When I signed my name on it, I signed it as Deepak Joshi and then my title, but beside my name, I didn't put down CAO, and so they felt that that needed to be clarified to see if it was a property owned by myself or the RM as the identified owner. And the other question was, they looking at the site, they noticed a berm, and they wanted verification what the berm was there for, and was it there to protect some other lands, and then were we possibly creating an issue by our drainage plan. And it was identified for them that that was not a berm, but it was a storage of mud and works that was scraped off, and it would be used to fill in the low-lying areas as part of the site works, and it's not a berm. So I don't see any concerns about getting approval quickly.
Okay, anything else from members of council? I believe that there is a resolution to move forward. I guess I do have one quick question though. I noticed on some of the drawings, I think it was, that KGS had done some of the drawings, so they're working with Scatliffe Miller on this project in some areas?
Yes, KGS are the engineers that are doing the work for them. And as a matter of fact, the application for the drainage works was done by the KGS engineer.
Okay. Okay, just to clarify, so then when we're making payment for the work that's done, is it all to Scatliff Miller, or is it broken down between the two companies? If you can see.
I can verify that, Madam Mayor, but my recollection is our contract is with Scotland Miller Murray, and they have subcontractors.
And I think that's why I kind of thought, like, what is KGS doing? Because I thought it was Scatliff Miller Murray also, so, okay, so that's good. So there is a resolution, if I could get you to just read that resolution, please.
Certainly. Resolved, council accept the tender documents provided by Scotland Miller Murray for the South St. Clements Activity Center site works.
Can I have a mover? Councillor Balderoge, Councillor Strang seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, 6.2 are portable toilet rentals, and I think that the administration has done some work on that. So, Mr. CAO, if you could just walk us through that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And as council had requested us to take a look at the restroom toilets and the facilities and where they could be put this year, but also to take a look at and see if there was what the cost would be and how we could look at implementing possibly cleaning more than once a week to possibly twice a week. We went in there, or we contacted the supplier and received some estimates as to what those costs would be. They've identified that they would do a clean out per toilet for an additional clean out per week would be $409 per toilet.
Holy mackerel.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
That's
As
crazy.
soon as I saw that, I almost fell off my freaking chair.
That's
Yeah.
right.
You're
That's-
home for half.
Okay. Okay, let Deepak finish and then we'll kind of open up the discussion.
I'm ready to vote on it right now.
Because I think we're gonna have some discussion on it and we may have to look at what else can be done.
Well, I got some, yeah.
Continue, Deepak, please.
So the estimate on that has been provided in the briefing, in the decision paper for you for the center, for the summer rental program for 15 weeks, and then the twice a week clean out. Once a week turns out to be about $10,000 right now. That's our existing contract. Twice a week would go to $17,000 as a total cost. So the sponsorship for the portable toilets continues to be worked on, and we'll continue to work on that process. We have approximately $45,000 in our budget for community facilities and parks, and over the last couple of years, the only charges to this account have been toilet rentals. With the increased cleaning for the summer months for the 4 toilets and regular cleaning for the winter, the 6 toilets would use $30,000 of the toilets out of this budget. So $30,000 would be. That would leave $14,000 in the recreation and playground inspections if time permits. The administration recommends to go twice a week for those clean out. But of course, the decision is good of council.
Okay, so before we have a resolution or anything, I am going to open it up for discussion. I'm pretty sure that almost everybody has something to say, so I think I'm just going to go around the table and I'll start with Councillor Sutherland here.
Well, I think it'd be unanimous. We don't do this twice a week for sure. But what I think, I don't know if we're gonna go with Country John's for this summer, we'll see, but we definitely should purchase our own porta potties, and then there's septic haulers up there. It's a shorter distance. We have our own and get some kind of a price from them, Schneider's and whatever beaches. I'm sure we could do a lot, you know, if Country John's services down here, that's fine, but definitely for the beaches. And we do own, or I brought the question up last meeting, I don't know if we did purchase at our transfer stations, we owned the.
I believe that we
Yes.
do own the ones at the transfer stations.
So, I mean, the initial cost, whatever it is, we should buy our own and then inquire.
Contract out the cleaning of them.
Yeah, because there's lots of septic, and it's sure not gonna be that high of a price. They're up to, I think it would, we should at least look into it.
Right,
For this year, I don't know what,
yeah.
everybody
Well,
see their thoughts.
we'll see what everybody else says. Counselor Strang.
Well, as I was going over my agenda and reading this, the first thing I thought of was Councillor Hoare was bringing up about, same thing about buying, purchasing our own. Because when I saw the prices of this, and I thought with COVID, we really should be cleaning twice, but when I saw the price, I thought, that is, I'm sorry, a very high price for it. And then agreeing with, I think Councillor Spicer said about putting the sign up on the door saying that they're cleaned once a week. But, and I truly support in using somebody up, a local business up there and giving them the business to the.
Yeah, there's 3 separate companies up there. I think, or maybe 4. Well, there's one from Vic Beach, but there's 4 up there.
Okay.
Okay, Counselor Boulanger.
I'm only suspecting, looking at this price, that this company, Country John's, is from the southern part of our municipality. That's my first assumption.
Well, and I can tell you that they're not from our municipality, they're from St. Andrews.
Okay, so there you go. I mean, that's probably why the price is the way it is. They're putting toilet paper and cleaning out the liquid that's inside. I don't know where this price is coming from, but I hate to say this as well, but it seems that every time a municipality, wants a product, that the prices go up. So I'm not prepared to pay this kind of money for those toilets. We talked about sponsorship in the past. I think, as our administrator said, we should continue that path. I like the idea of going up to our local haulers in the north who could service these. We could pick up all these toilets in a matter of a few hours, just get Public Works to go with the trailer, go to where they're produced in Winnipeg, load them up, we're done. And that's it.
Okay, Counselor Bazarowicz.
We're on the same page.
Counselor Spicer.
Yeah, I'm not far off. I'm not sure, like, I think the smallest amount of this bill is rentals. So whether owning them or renting them, I don't know if, like, I'm sure we could do a life cycle cost on them, figure that out. But the whole clean out cost is like, it's pretty steep. I think what we're gonna probably end up having to do is go with these guys at the once a week clean out, put the sign up saying, like it almost has to say, use at your own risk, because these are cleaned once a week. Like it almost has to be that, like to catch people's eyes, But yeah, to spend another $7,000, I don't think I can do that one. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Counselor Horvis.
For $700, for $7,000, they could come my place and have food. I was there on the weekend and I looked at those toilets, because there's 2 of them there now.
At where?
At
Also,
the
at the
harbor.
At the harbor, okay.
Yeah, and I went inside them and they look pretty clean. I think anybody who does use them is kind of
Put up a
respectful.
sign,
Pardon?
put up a sign that says try to keep clean.
Yeah.
Sometimes people do this
No,
and
and it's
that.
good to put up there, they're only clean once a week and at your own risk or whatever. That's good. But they weren't dirty, like filthy or anything like that. I don't know how long they've been there or for whatever, but there were 2 of them there.
They were
And,
just recently put up.
Sorry?
They were just recently put up.
Yeah, so, but they didn't, and in the past, I've never used them because I just lived like a stone throw away, but I know my wife has used them when we were there sometimes, and she said they were clean, And that was only, would have been, it wasn't us, it was that contractor there, so that still would have only been once a week, so.
Go ahead, Counselor Sutherland.
Just a comment about purchasing our own. That is, the initial cost of purchasing. Sure, it's cheaper, it's the rental, the cleaning, I understand that, but still, if you're renting them, they charge you every year to take them out there, pick them up, that's another cost. Where we could just, and they are pretty durable. We've had it at our transfer stations. I don't know if we've ever had to replace them. They're pretty durable. So I still think we should purchase our own.
They buy them out of Alberta, I think, for like $750.
Yeah, whatever it is,
Yeah.
that's probably gonna cost you $700 every year just for the Country Johns to pick it up and take it back to their place in the winter, if they do.
I guess my comment is, and I don't agree with paying that much either, but we're talking about picking them up and taking them back. Some of these locations, we do have porta potties there in the winter, so is there a need to pick them up and take them back every season?
No.
Like, you know, I know not probably in all the areas, but at Balsam Harbor, I believe we have them there in the winter.
Yeah, there's places.
You know, so that's another thing that we have to consider. Do they really need to be picked up and taken out?
You're right.
But isn't there a time period where we don't clean them then? Like they don't run,
There's a
there's a
couple of
time period
months
between,
that they're not being used at all.
Right, probably in the fall, like
Yes.
fall time, from, I don't know,
October to
October
December.
to December maybe.
Yes.
So then to
Well,
me,
even in spring, then, there's fishing season ends.
yeah, early,
so-
well, March, yeah, you
And then
can't
you've
fish.
got right,
Stable.
so-
Yeah,
But you've got people using the boat launch there quite a bit too, right? You know,
I guess, yeah,
you know, as soon as the lake opens up, there's people there.
true. But I still think we should own, buy our own.
well, I
It's
guess,
worked for the transfer stations.
right.
That's the reason we did it, because of the rental costs.
Well, and I think we're kind of hooked for this year, from what I recall, for the contract is for this season. So, I don't know, I'll throw it out there for the rest of council. Go ahead, Councillor Strain.
Is this the same company we used for, like we've used previous?
Yes, yeah, yeah. I think at the time when we wanted them up there, it was kind of like in a hurry. And they were the ones that were able to provide the service to us. Go ahead, Councillor Horvis.
Do we have any in this end here? Toilets, porties, or is it just this end?
Just that.
Oh, okay, so it makes sense to get somebody there. Because I was gonna say, if we got somebody in this end here, isn't one of our fire guys, doesn't he have a sewer truck?
Yeah,
Yeah, he
but
does.
he's not equipped for cleaning.
No, but I'm just saying, if the contract was out there, you know, maybe it's another source of some income. Why wouldn't we look at it?
Because
And there's one
it's the cleaning part, that they have to have a smaller truck and a sprayer. It's a different business altogether. Like he was gonna try it, but it didn't work. And we do have one in the south end at the Kirkus
Skating rink.
skating rink.
Skating rink.
Who does our landfill sites? The same company? Who cleans
Who does
the?
the-
I don't know, I guess Country Johns, I'm not sure, I don't know. You know, I'm not sure. We'd have to look and see.
Well, and I guess as I'm listening, and I don't disagree with anything that's been said, I think, you know, it is very expensive, but I think maybe what we should look at for next year is going two different ways. For them to supply and clean, what the cost would be, and also, if we purchase them, what the cost would be cleaning only. And try and get the business to the fellows up north rather than, you know, somebody out of the municipality. Like, I don't know if somebody would be willing to bid on it if they were just doing the cleaning, but, I mean, income is income, if that's the way it's gonna be. Councillor Bazaroj and then Councillor Horvis.
I think we should get a price on buying 10 units, whether we need them or not. It sounds like we were talking about expanding into Lockport as well. As soon as we get a price of 10 units, we would get a better deal, whether they come out of Alberta or wherever. I don't know who the suppliers are.
Well, and I'm gonna add to that, I mean, we're gonna start working on our South St. Clements Activity Center grounds.
You know, we want
I
something there
don't
too.
know if, you know, if the walking trails will probably be in before the building is up, so maybe it would be worth it to have one or two there
Well,
also.
especially we're talking maybe putting a pad in a farmer's market for the fall.
So,
So, yeah, what do we need, 6 units or something? 6? I said by 10? That's it.
yeah, I think there's 6 in the winter, right?
Because we're gonna have to replace the ones at our landfill sites too now. So 10 might not even be enough. Because now that person, if we won't have them all, that it'll be our toilets or the RM's toilets, and then somebody will just come there and clean them, or I don't know who cleans them at the landfill sites now.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
Okay,
That's
so,
correct.
And I talked to that Eric's up there, I kind of mentioned this to him, he's very interested in it.
okay, so I guess with council's permission or go ahead, I would suggest that we ask administration to look into purchasing 10 units. And just to have them see what the costs come back as, and do we want to do anything with the contract for this year, or do we leave things as they are for this year? Go ahead, Councillor Boulanger.
I'm gonna throw this out. Usually when septic people who are in the business buy product, they get it at a really good price because they're in the field. We should find out who in the north can do the pumping for us. Touch base with either Schneider's or Balsam Harbor Pump, whatever, there's 3 or 4 up there. You said.
Eric's, yeah.
Ask them if they can make a phone call for us to a supplier, get a price, because if the municipality called for 10, I'll guarantee you right now that the price that Balsam Harbor Pumping or Snyder's is going to get, who are in the business, would be a better price than us. So we're going to do 2 things. You're going to find out who can clean them for us next year, but if you could get a price to buy 10 of them and see what kind of price we get.
Okay, Councillor Sutherland.
That's a good idea, and also I'm thinking it wouldn't hurt to contact Laurie Hunt. I know he's out of that, but he knows the ropes, he's doing that a long time.
Well, was this not his business?
I think this was his business, Country John's was his business.
But he sold it too, yeah, it was.
Well, he
Yeah.
could,
But you're right, he could.
He could
knows all the
have
rights.
some,
Yeah.
he could have some ideas of how best to do. Go ahead, Mr. Administrator.
Just a comment, you can ask administration to do further investigation and report back. I recommend not approaching any potential bidders on a tender for pricing and then have to go out to a public tender after that. That might put us at risk.
Okay, but I think we should give direction to administration to further the discussion or bring back some additional information. But for the rest of this season, we're gonna leave it as is with the once a week, with signs on the porta potties that say that they are only clean once a week. Is that what council is wanting to do?
I feel like I'm getting taken advantage of it. That's what really bugs me, but I think we're getting hosed here big time in Ireland.
How do you mean getting hosed?
Well,
Like, we're not,
they're really putting it to us, like,
$500.
yeah, they're just giving it to us big time.
but I
I mean,
don't,
I don't want to go around cleaning toilets, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, it seems like we're being taken advantage of because they're the only show in town, sort of thing, you know what I mean? There's been, you know,
so are you suggesting that we try and re-tender this for the rest of this year? Because I think the contract with Country John's is for till the end of this season.
And we've already asked them to place the toilets out there for this year, so there would be an ending of the contract.
But we're going to not go with the twice a week as we had thought we might. So there'll be no change in the contract and it'll just be once a week at the chosen location. Go ahead.
If I can, Madam Mayor, what I'm hearing from council is that what you'd like to do is continue on with the once-a-week cleaning as per existing contract, and for the administration to go back and investigate, to report back with options to buy or look at a new contract with the option to buy to also include cleaning from someone. So to come back with various options for council's consideration. Based on that, we'll do a tender.
Correct. Go ahead, Councillor Boulanger.
I agree with we're paying a lot, but I think we're pretty much tied into this summer with this contract.
That's right.
Basically, someone would have to, they'd have to go pick them up, get them out of there. There'd be a lag time till they get options back.
Right.
We'd have to get a new contract, a new company, and then have to bring them back out there. Yeah, it's gonna be it's unfortunate.
well, can we do it so when the winter comes and we're finished the summer part, that we're not dealing with these people anymore? And we have our own staff by then?
Well, hopefully we could, because we did say that there was that lag between October and freeze up. And I don't know what the date on the contract is, you know, the contract date with Country John's may be till October 31st. I don't know, that would be another thing that we would ask administration to check when the contract with Country John's ends. So, okay?
Might end up with the same company anyway.
You could,
Well,
yeah. Okay, so direction on that, there's not a resolution for that one. And the next one, we have 6.3 is Red River North Trails. And this is requesting a resolution for the 20,000 for the East Soccer Trail project. Is that different than our budget amount? Because we talked about that before.
No, it's not.
Okay, so it was included in the budget. Now we're just having a resolution to ratify that?
Correct. What this decision paper says, Madam Mayor, is that the Trails Association has already received the approval from the provincial funding for the matching grant up to $20,000.
Right.
And what this resolution does is it gives the CAO authority to proceed with meeting some of those requirements that the province already has in order for them to complete the project, and the intent was for this to match the funding. So if it turns out that their costs are only $18,000, then our matching funds would be for only $18,000. I would report back. The reason for asking for the resolution at this point is so that when they go out to do their tendering and determine what the actual costs are going to be, they're going to need some ability to say that they have the funds in place. This says that they have up to authority, but for the CAO only to match the funds and for the actual costs of doing that work.
Okay, any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councilor Bazarowicz.
Just a comment, this is one of 3 grants that we had applied for. One was for, well, obviously this one. One was for Alexander, and one was for East St. Paul. The other 2 were not successful. We're the only ones who got it.
Correct.
Okay, so with that, if there's no other comments, I will ask our administrator to please read the resolution for us.
Whereas Red River North Trail Association, Inc. successfully obtained a 2020-21 Building Sustainable Communities Program funding in the amount of $20,000 for the East Selkirk Trail project. And whereas Council supported this project with a letter of support and commitment of funding for up to $20,000 to match the provincial grant by way of Resolution 2019-330. Therefore, be it resolved, Council approve payment of up to $20,000 to Red River North Trail Association, conditional upon receiving a copy of the signed contribution agreement between the province and the Red River North Trails Association, and a grant request to the RMC implements.
And I have a mover, please. Councilor Bazarowicz, second. Councilor Sutherland. Any other discussion on this resolution? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, 6.4, proposed subdivision, 232 Donald Road. I guess there was, this has been before us earlier, and there was some suggestion of a different proposal. Mr. Administrator, did you want to speak to it, or was Heather going to speak to it?
I can speak to it, and I can ask Heather to step in whenever she feels comfortable to do.
Okay.
So there was the original proposal that was put forward by the applicants. So this is before it's been submitted to Red River Planning, and they were seeking council's direction. And then they laid out the following design of their subdivision. As you can see, that the lots are going down Donald Street all the way up to Rebec Road. In the review, council took this into consideration. They mentioned 2 specific items in addition to other items to correct the 2 conditions items were take a look at this potential future right-of-way and make sure it aligns further south as necessary to make sure that it works appropriately for the future. And secondly, to see if the alignment can take into consideration of these lots, for Rebec Road, for the lots to be facing Rebec Road, where the lot is facing Rebec Road. In that case, they came back with a revised proposal. The revised proposal, and I'll zoom in a little bit further, they took that into consideration. First thing that they did was make the change to the right-of-way and adjusted it to align much more. So previously it was here, now it's been moved here along the, between lots 1 and 2 as opposed to between lots 3 and 4. And then they created lots 6 and 7 in a different fashion. As you can see, this created a flag lot. In discussions with the applicant, felt that this was creating a much more problematic issue than resolving the issue of having a corner lot facing on Rebec Road. So requested for the applicant to revise that again. Based on that revision, they came back, and I apologize, this is the Zoom issue. So they came back with a proposal, and what I'll do is, what they did was describe what they went with, and what the original, which was the flag lot, they're saying they're not going to proceed with that they will proceed with this new proposal. And what it looks like, as you can see here, is that they're all facing on Donald, but the one, lot 7, is now larger than all the other lots. It will use this access that's existing off of Rebec, and it's been large enough that it can be somewhat situated with, if you take a look, the property is right here, that they're proposing as a possibility. Of course, at the end of the day, the owner of the land will decide where they want a house, and they put that forward, and it goes forward for approval. But what they're proposing is this lot's large enough that it could, based on it already using an access off of Rebec, it could still have that lot facing Rebec with development facing that way, while the other lots are all squared off. This is a much more palatable subdivision proposal, and if council is in agreement, they will then move forward to Red River planning for subdivision.
Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
So changing that access, it's because the drain must take off and go. Because,
You mean to the south?
yeah, because it looks like it's farther that way now, but I guess if it just lines up further
Drain.
south, then fine.
It drains,
Go ahead, Councillor Pastor-Board.
it drains west towards the creek, is what it does. From
Yeah,
both
but I
sides.
think what Councillor Spicer is saying, where the creek is, like, does the road, the proposed road, does the creek come closer or further away that they move the road over from between lots 3 and 4
It must
to
go
2 and
further
3?
away.
Must
or
go
the
further away.
Line up farther south, I guess.
Well,
What they,
what it is the creek isn't straight, the creek.
Yeah.
No, and that's what we're saying. That's what we're saying, but because they moved the road over, the creek must be further away from the lots that they moved the road over to between 2 and 3 rather than between 3 and 4.
Do we have a picture of the whole mile? by any
I don't
chance?
know, Deepak looks like he
we
might be
don't
trying
have
to
a
get
picture of
one.
the whole mile, but I could certainly, if you're willing to, I can
scroll
bring it up.
Scroll it to Dunning where our road allowance is now, and then you'll see.
I think that's the issue here. When they came here last time,
Yeah.
council asked them to make sure that the road was aligned with the other road allowances and to make sure that it was aligned as opposed to having to figure out another way to move forward. They
Right.
took that into consideration in this design. Heather, am I correct in that? And that's why this road moved from between lots 3 and 4 to lots 2 and 3. Now, if you'd like, I can certainly bring it up on our ArcGIS and show you the other properties that it's related with, but we don't have it on this.
I was just trying to wrap my mind around that, that's all. But that makes sense.
I think that's the issue here. When they came here last time, council asked them to make sure that the road was aligned with the other road allowances and to make sure that it was aligned as opposed to having to figure out another way to move forward. They took that into consideration in this design. Heather, am I correct in that?
But that makes sense.
Okay, so is everybody good with the new proposal where they have the road between lots 2 and 3 and lots 6 and 7 are both squared off?
Yep.
Lot 7 will have access off of Rebec, which was one of the things that we kind of wanted, and lot 6 would have access off of Donald Road. Go ahead, Deepak.
Just, I want to be very clear on this, Madam Mayor, that this is the proposal. It's going to yet go to Red River, and it's going to go through its approval process.
Right.
They have an existing access off of Rebec. That's what they prefer to use.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, an applicant can choose to say, I want to get access off of Donald for some reason.
Yeah.
It's an added expense for them to create a new access, but that could possibly happen.
Yeah. So the consensus is that the applicant should go ahead and make their application through RRPD, and it will go through the process and be circulated. Correct? Go ahead, Councillor Horvis.
Are these more than 2 acre lots?
They are.
Lot 7 is.
Yeah, lot 7 definitely is.
They are, the lot sizes, Councillor, are 2.05 for the lot 1, 2.05 for lot 2, 2.0 for lot 3s, 4, 5, and 6, and lot 7 is 2.67.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
I haven't been down there for a while. Have we completed the drainage on that south side of Donald Road yet? I think we did, because we sure wouldn't want,
Yeah,
it's done,
I think it's done.
because we should
To the
make
creek,
sure.
to the creek.
Because that's a lot of culverts to realign if the subdivision goes in 5 years from now, you got, it's very important, because we had drainage problems there. It's a pretty deep ditch on that south side.
Yeah, well, they had to do
So I just want to make sure that
the east side of Rebec as well. East side of Rebec
Yep.
comes in and drains that whole side.
well, as long as it's the drainage.
Check with Greg, but I'm pretty sure it's
We
finished.
should just kind of check into that, because
Well, I think Deepak has probably made a note of it, and we'll have that checked, and as, you know, the proposal is just starting, so if there
I
is
understand,
drainage work to be done, hopefully we can get it done before the subdivision is registered,
yes.
so. Deepak, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor. That was exactly what I was going to say.
Okay, so we can move on. 6.5, resident concern, and I believe that's the one that we added to the agenda that Councillor Sutherland brought forward about one of the residents having a concern with some activity going on. So go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I got a call from Blaine Orvis. Yeah, the old pit where Earl Thomas used to haul out of, and we have in years. It's simply, we used to be kept it blocked off.
What
You know,
road
somebody
is-
did use the access to the pit. We
Right,
have rocks
what
there.
road is that on? Is it
It's
on?
101, I believe.
Yeah, it's 101, yeah.
So,
Somebody moved the rocks there?
yes, and what's happening, people have hauled a bunch of fish guts in there, brush. And so Blaine says, "But, you know, why is it not blocked off?" I says, "I can't tell you." Kind of gave Public Works a heads up, but I didn't tell them what to do. I just, it's simply a matter of us putting barriers into the rocks. You know, and if somebody has to use it, that's fine. Move the rocks, do what you have to do, because they do haul some
It's,
material over there.
Yeah, we hauled a whole bunch of mud in there,
Yeah.
and there were rocks there, we put
Yeah.
them back there. Like I could go tomorrow and put those rocks back there. I don't know who would move them.
I don't know, Blaine doesn't know, he just,
Yeah.
so that was,
You know,
it's
check
just
that
not a
out.
big deal, it's just a matter of putting the rocks back.
I did get a call from that guy who lives in, where I live in that subdivision on the corner there. I talked to Colleen about it. And he had called me and asked me if he could go in there and haul mud over there. And I said he couldn't because the municipality's not in that type of thing to give out product to everybody, because if they did, then we'd be giving it to everybody and open that pit up. And then I found out that this guy had sued trail, what do they call it, trails or whatever?
North Trails.
Yeah, he sued North Trails and he got like $7,000. Called me and told me.
Yeah, he didn't sue the trails, he sued the installer of the trail,
Oh, Chabot.
Bluestone.
Oh, whoever, but yeah. So here's this guy, he get paid for his whatever, and now he wants something for nothing.
He tried to sue us too.
No, I thought he told me on the phone he wouldn't sue the municipality.
Oh, he tried.
wanted to do that.
He tried.
Anyways,
He wanted us to build him a fence,
Yeah.
is what it was.
but I mean, I got a loader in my house, I can go and move those rocks.
Well, you guys can discuss it. Go ahead, Deepak.
I just
please.
want some clarification. This is some property that's RM property?
Yeah,
The one that Councillor Sutherland is talking about, that is RM property, yes.
Yes.
I appreciate the offer, Councillor. I'm a little concerned that, I know that you can do it, but I think it should be done through Greg. Just because it's private works or private company putting information on there, or putting rocks onto public property. And I just want to make sure that we're clear on that. And if Greg can't do it, that something gets worked out with you.
yeah.
Because I just don't want to confuse that more. And I think it's, very nice that you're offering this. It would be beneficial to everyone involved, but I just don't want to create an issue that could be seen later.
Okay, so I think that's all on that one. The concern has been brought forward. If he contacts you again or anything, or any of the other councillors, if anyone is contacted, it has been discussed and it will be looked after in the next couple of days, I would suspect, so.
Do we own that land to the cemetery here? Is that our land? To the
Well,
Boston?
we own the road in there, I believe.
Because I think that same guy phoned me, said that nobody's cutting the grass there. Why aren't we cutting the grass?
I don't think we've ever maintained it.
Well, he
Well, I
said he
think
used
on-
to work for the municipality. That's a
Okay,
different orifice.
that's a different, and we're getting off topic here, so let's do the closed list of accounts, and then when we have a little bit of a break, we can talk about that one, because I think what they're looking for is just like where we would do road maintenance and cut the ditches just on the sides of the road going in there, so. But let us get back to the agenda, number 7, the accounts and financial statement. So the first one is our closed list of accounts. And Deepak, if you could read the resolution for us, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolved, Council approved the June 23rd, 2020 list of accounts, check numbers 20201-217 to 2021335 in the amount of $777,000, 161.5 and 51 cents for payment.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sutherland, second. Councillor Belanger, any further discussions, questions, queries on the list of accounts this time around? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, now we have 7.2, our financial statement as of May 31st. So Deepak, if you want to walk us through this and see where we go with it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you can, the financial statements have been submitted for you for the month of June, and going back, starting for the end of May. And so what I wanted to do was go through the financial statements. I did a quick PowerPoint to sort of highlight some items that I think on each one of the statements for council's consideration. And then what I've also asked is Shannon to be here, that we can answer any questions. And also I wanted to discuss a little bit about the plan of how we move forward. So the first item is that there's been some discussions at the council as to the timeliness and availability of the financial statements based on other tasks and challenges. There are challenges based on how the information is presented and to the software we have today, and taking those things into consideration, we've come back to the proposal. The financial statements that have been prepared have gone through, the ones that you have today, have gone through an internal audit process to provide financial documents that have been verified for accuracy and elimination of as many any errors that could have arisen. And that's through the inputting process in our MuniWare software, where all the information is tracked, and that it's exported out and then brought forward as part of our spreadsheets, and then and made available and presentable for council's purposes. As in any piece of software, there are sometimes limitations, and that's something we'll look at as we move forward. So what we're proposing, in order to be more timely as we move forward in the future, is that the administration is proposing, in order to be more timely, is to provide all future statements. The monthly statements will be provided as a snapshot in time for council's review. And detailed audited statements will be submitted on a quarterly basis, which are internally audited. And my proposal is at which point we'll go through them in detail, work through council and some of that detailed analysis, and then Shannon and I will be here to answer many of those questions. As discussed with you early on in the year when I came on board, one of the things I said was I wanted to be able to report to council on a quarterly basis. This would be our step towards that, so that we can have detailed information that we can present to council, have a much more detailed discussion on some of those, add to our task, and see that we're staying financially on the right track as we move forward throughout the year. So this is our first task towards moving towards that. So based on that, you'll have your opportunity to tell me what you feel about that proposal. What I wanted to do was walk you through some of these. So where we have the operating fund balance sheet, I wanted to draw your attention on a few different items. One is the cash assets. The value represents the current temporary line of credit, where the maximum available is $6,799,000, and right now what we have is a cash assets at the year-to-date balance of $915,017 is what's available on the sheets that you see. The other item that I wanted to draw your attention to is the tax receivables and education levies. In here, as you'll notice, the tax receivable and education levies don't seem to be any amount. And the question would be, why are they like that? The reason is that the amounts, this is a carryover from 2019, and the actual amounts for will not be available till August when we do the load for the tax roll. And so that's when that information becomes available for us to be able to use. So, but some good news, that was something to raise, was in 2019, there was an outstanding balance of $1,729,778.18, and that was in December, and it is at now $35,540.44. So that's outstanding taxes. So I think there are some questions already.
Well, I guess, yeah, I'm just curious as to why that there was such a big carryover from last year to this year. Is that all outstanding taxes?
Correct.
Just as a note, in December, the added taxes become due, so that they always become due December 31st. So we usually see those payments coming in January, February, March.
Okay.
So there are some carryover from people that have been paid, and then there's also the added taxes
Right.
that go into that. Madam Mayor, there are other questions.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
So is it normal to have only $32,000 on your tax roll as of May 31st? Because that's extremely low.
Right, so what we've got is a little bit of a difference from last year. We had seen an increase in the PAP tax payments that were coming in monthly. We were at $120,000 a month last year. This year, the average is $135,000 a month, and that started in January. So that's allowed for about $15,000 a month in difference. On top of that, the added taxes that went in last year, again, due December 31st, so those payments are coming in the door. That's just the outstanding balance of all taxes, arrears, delinquent, and current. The current taxes will get posted in August.
Yeah.
Why not till August?
Typically,
Because it comes from the province as a download. So it goes automatically into anywhere, we don't manually enter them all.
I guess my question is why so late in the year? Like, we used to get that in June or July, and it would be downloaded.
I'm not sure, we in the last few years have always used the July 31st date for the balance on the tax rolls and request the tax bills then. We do have a legislative requirement to have the tax bills out the door so many days before our tax deadline. So we can make that earlier in the year, that's just the timing that's been directed.
Okay, I'm gonna rephrase my question. At this time of year, are you usually at $32,000 of arrears owing? Because you should be in the hundreds of thousands.
I would have to look back to compare across the years.
Just,
Seems like
I'm
good
going
news.
from past lifetimes here. That's really low. Like, I've never seen that before. Which is good, don't get me wrong.
Well, I was gonna say,
Go ahead,
it's arrears, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
but-
tax amount, is what it is.
Right, but I was gonna say, it's
That's time,
yeah, I was gonna say, follow with what you said, it's a good thing that we're not,
good thing.
you know,
But is it real?
It's just wild.
I can do a year-over-year comparison and bring that back for information.
Did you have anything further that you wanted to comment on, Deepak? On that
Oh.
part of it?
There's lots on this
No, on
slide
that
here.
part of it.
On that part of it. If council, I think Shannon's laid out, like the process has been July 31st, when we send the information, then we get the upload. If the council wanted to get an earlier upload, you could look at it. But I think at the end of the day, it's better to have a later upload, mainly because you can catch all those things. At this point in time, knowing that you're getting those tax dollars is a given, like, you know, it's just an estimate amount anyways.
But really, when we end up having the download and everything so late in the year, we're actually giving the people less time to pay, because our due date hasn't changed. They're still due October the 31st.
The
And
bills
if we
go up.
don't, and if we don't send the bills out until end of August, then you're really giving the people September 2 months to pay. Like, when did the bills go out last year?
I would have to look, but yeah, like third week of August, I think.
And that's a good valid point. We can look at that and see if we can.
August 21st, I think it said on the thing.
August 21st.
I think that's what, or 17th, I remember seeing that.
Like, and maybe, you know, maybe it's because the way things have changed or whatever, but we used to have, here I go, we used to have the bills out of here in July. And it just seems that as the years have gone on, they're sent out later and later, and people are having less time to put the funds together to pay the taxes, I'll put it that way.
Well, we're really talking about 4 weeks, so if we get our budget done, right, before the 15th of May, anytime after that budget's done, we can submit our tax bills. That's really what it comes down to. But the people who are making their monthly payments through automatic, right,
Through
you
the
want to
PAP.
allow, and that doesn't hit usually until anywhere between the 25th and the 28th. So by the time we get the budget done, and then we get all of that last payment run, the earliest we could submit those numbers would be for the June 30th month end, and then we could order them for July. But the bills still, it takes a bit to get them from the city. We've been trying to expedite that process. If we get them printed there, that helps things. If we have to do stuffers, there's an allowance for that. So if we're trying to look at the big picture of getting the bills out sooner, there's a couple of other pieces there to just keep in mind.
And I realize that, yeah, I realize that there are other pieces that come into play, so. But go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
I think I just gleaned on what the answer to my question is. Actually, what you have on roll is you still have people who have arrears, but you also have people who have credits,
Right.
because they're paying their
Because they're paying
monthly,
their monthly.
even though they've already paid last year's taxes already.
Right, they're paying every month towards the next year's
That
taxes.
makes more sense.
But when Deepak started his presentation, I think it was this way, that there's been some issues with the program that MuniWare has to do this part of the financial statements? Is that what you said?
In order to provide the information in the manner that council has been receiving it,
Right.
there are some challenges with MuniWare, that it's a good product for doing the work, but not necessarily producing the right types of reports. So information has to be exported out, massaged, and put together into reports for council.
See, I'm sorry, like, I just don't get that, because for what we're paying them, if we want a report a certain way, they should be able to provide, change their program, or, I guess, what's the right word, tailor their program to what we want.
There is always a way of working with the company to do that. There will be a cost associated to doing that. That's something I said that I would look at as part of this, is take a look at that software. And is it even the right software anymore to use as we move forward? And that can be something that we do as a review. And that's my intent with these types of discussions at a quarterly level. What's working, what's not working for council? How can we better do reporting and have a better dialogue? Right now, we're having quite a bit of dialogue on just one of those sheets that you probably have had in the past. And I'd like to encourage that kind of discussion as we go forward, so that we can then make the necessary changes, so that this is valuable information that helps you to make your decisions as we move forward.
Okay. Any other questions at this point in time, or shall we let Deepak continue on? Go ahead, Deepak.
Okay, so the other part is, in this item is the provincial receivables. And the provincial receivables mostly are done as year-end remittances. That's why the numbers are low there. Our own fund receivables, in order to make sure that you understood, those are the transfers from our utilities in. And the inventories for sale, we've talked about this in the past. This is where it shows that. There's our, where it shows our value is $725,000 for inventory for sale. Those are all the Sunset Bay lots that we've been showing in our reports for you. So I want to make sure that I brought that to your attention. Next is our...
Go ahead.
I just remember from before, there was, somebody owed us some tax money. It was from government land that we owned, or that somebody was leasing and then didn't pay the taxes on it. Do you remember about this property?
Yes.
It was down over here. Like, is that still on the books? How are we gonna, oh, you took, it's gone then?
Yeah,
Okay.
we used our allowance for tax assets, which was too inflated. The auditor had suggested that we pare that number down. So we used that overage to write off that amount. You guys did it by resolution, and that's gone.
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
That was those HMQ lease properties, St. Peter's Road.
Housing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, leased, Crown.
Yeah.
So that's like it's gone,
Yes.
like it's, okay.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Deepak.
Okay, next item is the capital fund balance sheet. And in here, Ron, to let you know the two notes that were as part of this report, which are that the capital additions during 2019 year will be posted following the completion of the 2019 audit statement annual audit process. So what you see here right now were based on the previous audited statements. Values shown from the assets under construction reflect the Narrow Fire Hall and the South St. Clements Activity Center. So those are the values under the assets under construction, which is around, for the year-to-date balance, $59,985.97. And so these are all based on values of after the 2018 audit. So the 2019 audit will be done shortly in the next few months, and then those will get updated. So just wanted to make sure that we draw your attention to that.
Quick question.
Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
Is Narrow Fire Hall complete? We still have bills coming in.
I've seen it completely slow down, so I need to double check and really talk to everybody who's involved in the project, but I would say we're at the...
There's some warranty work.
Okay.
Well, that's on a whole.
We're
back,
getting
so that's
close.
not expense anymore.
Or we can get bills for warranty work.
No, he's asked if it was complete. I just know that it's still in there, they're just finishing up. There was a leak in the floor, they had to break up the floor, so they'll cover that, but we probably hold back 7%.
I did, yeah.
And I think it should be noted that the Narrow Fire Hall was completed, I understand, on time and under budget. That's something you should be proud of as an organization, because that's a rarity in my life. Usually get on time, on budget, or meeting user requirements, but you only get to pick 2.
Well, things are gonna change that you're here now. It's gonna happen that way all the time.
We're gonna be over budget. Okay, the next is the reserves, and on the reserve sheet, number 3 for your list that's been provided in there, I wanted to draw your attention. The gas tax reserve will be used for the following, which is the boat launch, the Colville Road sidewalk, Fuller Road, and the 2015 deficit recovery plan.
Where are we with our 2015 deficit recovery?
Good question.
This is the last year.
This is the last year that we had one draw from the gas tax fund for $260,000. But in the meantime, I'm doing a full review of where we started, because we've also contributed surplus at the end of the years. So I'm just going through to make sure that that's completely taken care of this year. And I'll bring that back in a separate report.
Okay. Next item, basically the utility funds operating balance sheet. Here, it's just straightforward. It's the own funds receivables are the inter-fund transfers throughout the document in here. And I'll move on to the next one, which is the one that I wanted to identify here. First thing is, this is, if you're following along on your sheets, is number 5 and 9. And in here, I wanted on the utility funds capital balance sheet, I wanted to identify error in the spreadsheet. It should have read, instead of 2020 year-to-date, that's the 2019 year-to-date. And instead of the 2019 year-to-date, we should have read 2018 balance. Okay, so that was an error, or it just needs to be corrected, and just so that you understand that part. I wanted to draw your attention to several things in here. The Lockport assets and construction values shown reflect the current expenses for the Henderson wastewater treatment study. The East Selkirk sewer and water assets and the construction values shown there reflect the current expenses for the Ferry Road Extension utility service. And then I wanted to highlight these debentures. We've had a little bit of talk back and forth here on several times, and I wanted to make sure that you saw those debentures as to what they are for, that we have these, the LID costs at Sunset Bay as an example. There's $1 million, as of 2019, $1,354,716.03 outstanding and owing on that, of which we were paying our carrying cost for our lots, just as everyone else is paying. So that'll be paid off in time. And then there is the Lockport for the Old River Road that's still outstanding. And then there's the East Selkirk sewer and water. So these were our debentures that we have sitting there. Next is our revenues and expenditures. This, of course, you see regularly and probably have the most amount of questions on. So I'm prepared for those questions. We'll be as prepared as we can to answer any of those questions, but wanted to identify some things for you. First of all, the tax revenues, grants in lieu of taxes, and school requisitions will be shown after the loading of the road, as mentioned earlier in August. The other revenues includes the $600,000 from the general assistance grants. That was identified earlier in one of the earlier council meetings, and we verified, and this is to show that it's there for, as well as the DFA grant, which was $150,000 we received for the flood protection. Transfers from the reserves occur when needed. So in here you'll see that there's amounts there, and if you were comparing it to the financial plan that was approved, you'd be saying, why aren't the reserves up, or why aren't those amounts there? Those amounts are done when when there's a need to transfer the reserves as opposed to just transfer them from one location to the other. Okay, so moving on from that, we go to our next item, which is the capital revenue and expenditures. And in here, what I want to identify for you, some of the items are the Narrow Fire Department drainage projects and the South St. Clements Activity Center projects are expenses falling under borrowings, which are the accrued. The fire services, the SCBA unit replacement are carryover and multi-year replacement for a specific reserve fund. And the other is the flood equipment mitigation are 100% funded from the DFA grant that are listed on that sheet. The transfer from the reserves to the fund, land acquisition are deferred to year end for the drainage budgeted only if required. So these are transferred from reserves for land acquisitions that may be required for drainage purposes, as identified in the financial plan. Next is our utility operating funds, revenue and expenditures. The transfers and capital expenses are all due on December 31st, and that's why they're not shown there at this point. The transfer to reserves include connection fees and operating surpluses as applicable. Next is the capital projects revenue and expenditures. The project expenses, which is the last sheet on the information that you were provided, which are the project expenses falling under borrowing are accrued, and South St. Clements Community Building Grant of $250,000, which was received in 2018. Total project expenses are accumulated from 2018 to 2020. So when you see the total project expenses, you need to see that they are totally accumulated. So as you can appreciate, this is my first attempt at your first quarter review, and wanted to draw certain attention to you. And what I'm hoping to do is, as we go further, both Shannon and I can bring these budget items and discussions and go through in much more detail on an ongoing basis, especially as the year rolls on, so that council has a clear understanding of where our financial stance is and where are some advantages. As you know, there are things are fluctuating throughout the year, such as we have new sales of properties, we have subdivisions, all those things that are coming in, and then we want to be able to find a way to keep you updated on those things. So it's information being provided, but I wanted to set it up to a process where I can then have discussion items for you. As we've generated some discussion today, I'm hoping to generate more as we go and move forward.
Thank you for that. Go ahead, Councillor Blanc.
Just on that $10 million East Suffolk sewer and water debenture, is there a timeline? Like what was that taking over? How many years was that? Shannon knows that, or?
Yes.
So there are actually multiple debentures in that total number.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah. So each of those bylaws is, I think, the 20-year term.
Okay.
I'd have to double check.
How many years are we into?
They were all done in different years.
They were
so-
done in 2016 and 2018.
Yeah, 18, I think is the last one.
For the East Selkirk?
Yeah.
East Selkirk, there was the LID A and B, which were done in 2016. And then there was the East Selkirk FCM, which were also done in 2016. And then there was the East Selkirk RBC that we borrowed the money, and that was in 2018.
And that was for the East Selkirk sewer and water.
Yeah,
Yeah, the one that was done in 2018, we had still $907,000 on the table. We had some project cost overruns, and we had a capital deficit. So the municipal board allowed us to use what was supposed to be our final borrowing when the project was designed. But because of the fluctuation in interest rates over the years, it covered off every last cent of what it cost us to build East Selkirk. So that was the final borrowing.
Well, it just seems like from the time that it was installed
Yeah,
to
which
the
was-
time we're borrowing the money, that's lots of years in between.
Exactly.
it was like 2007, I think, it was, or 8 was put in. If I remember my mind.
It was 7 or 8 because it was while I was
Yeah.
not here.
Yeah.
So
So,
it started then, and then I think our major costs started showing up, I want to say 14, but don't quote me.
okay.
But I do have a reconcile for the
That's
bottom.
That's a long time, like
It was.
something doesn't seem
It's out of our
right.
control, but that's why I wanted to ask, because when I saw that number there, I'm thinking, geez, I didn't realize, but there's a number in there, there's a whole number of,
It's multiple
Yeah.
pieces that went over a period of time, and yes, it should, in my opinion, should have happened more quickly, because that always has a financial impact for interest and carrying costs, which now we don't do that, right? So now, this is why I've made comments in past about if we're borrowing money, we need to be mindful of the timelines and the interest and getting the debentures and so forth completed as quickly as possible following the completion. And that's why we also have the project reports that can show exactly what we spent here to date and where we are with it, so that we can kind of keep on top of it.
Councillor Bazarovich.
When you do an adventure, you're locked in for 20 or 25 years, are you not? So regardless, even if you pay it off in the following year, you're still responsible for those payments for the entire 20 years. It's not like when you get a line of credit or something like that where you got extra capital to pay it out. This, you have no advantage to paying it off early. Maybe that's why.
It's like having a mortgage, but you can't do prepayments.
great.
You're locked in.
Okay, well, if there are no other questions on the finance part, I guess we do have a resolution to accept the financial statement for May 31st as
Thanks for that
presented.
feedback.
You're welcome. Thank you, Shannon. And I'll bring up the statements. So we did the closed list of accounts already, or?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so now is the financial statement.
Yeah.
Resolved, the May 31st, 2020 financial statement be adopted as presented.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Spicer, Councillor Strang seconds. Any further discussion?
One quick.
Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
So generally, one of the reasons for our quarterly checkover was the issue of COVID-19. I don't really see that we're being hugely affected. Or what's your opinion?
At this point, we're not seeing we don't have significant impacts as a municipality for costs related to COVID-19. There are some, and that'll be something that we'll have to take a look at, depending on what the province or the federal government request for some payback on it. The other item was for COVID-19 was to see if there was an impact on our businesses and residents, to see if there was a need to be able to offer any kind of relief in the taxes if necessary. We haven't seen any major impacts at this point. Manitoba has fared fairly well. Our businesses were probably in some of these areas may be impacted by a few weeks, like some of the cottage businesses that where some of the requests came from. So council still has the ability, we said by the end of the year, if they wanted to do some changes. We're not recommending any changes at this point for the tax bills that are going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Horbus.
We should see some savings with this COVID though, eh? Because our expenses are down in something, like we're not traveling, all that kind of stuff.
Correct.
So in the your next 3-month budget, that'll start to come in to show where those savings were in the surplus, like
Exactly.
we should see that?
That's some of the discussions that we want to have is where are we seeing some of those savings, where there are some surpluses, and what does council want to do with that? And how do
There's a
we
little
move
project
forward?
here or there that we could put that to or do whatever.
Or put it in reserves and then use it for next year. You know, there are opportunities, there are opportunities for council to be able to, as an example, take some of the savings from this year and put them in and use our operating savings a way to fund capital projects for next year. And that way you save some of your borrowing costs, and, so there are many different options, but we want to be able to bring that forward as part of, here are some of the savings and here are the various options. That we're going to learn as we go.
It's nice to see that we're not into our line of credit at all either, really. We've got quite a bit of money there.
Correct.
Yeah, I like that.
Shannon did mention that council would be pleased to hear that.
Okay, so I have a mover, I have a seconder for the financial statement for May 31st. Any other questions? I do have one. And it's not really related to the financial statement, it's more to the finances. We have authority to do borrowings for the fire hall, for the drainage, and there was one other one for South St. Clement's Activity Center. Is there any recap of how much we've spent for the fire hall so far compared to what our borrowing was?
On that last report page where it has the projects,
Okay,
it shows everything we've spent to date since the day the project started, and I think, yeah, no. So I have to change this a little bit then to show you what the authority is. What it's really showing as the revenues on top is how much we've touched, like, if we were to borrow tomorrow, this is how much of that authority we've used for expenses in the project to date.
But you can't use that for something else.
no, those were specific borrowings. Well, I guess the one for the drainage, it has to be used for drainage, but it wasn't for any specific project. It could be for different drainage projects throughout the municipality.
Including, I think there are 4 that are specifically named that the municipal board made us include. Like Guns, Funds, Ashfield Road North, and I think Grand Marais are noted in the bylaw, and then there's general drainage works
Right,
included as
right.
well. But Narrow and South St. Clement's, those are specific borrowings for specific purpose, right?
Right.
But I can include on this report what the original borrowing authority was.
Well, no, I was just curious to see where we were with those, like how much, because we haven't really, we had authority to borrow, but nothing has come across our desks to say that we are taking from those borrowed monies to do things.
Well,
Right, so we got the authority and then we set up the interim line of credit,
Okay,
which I have tried to explain before. I'm not touching that yet. We're just working out of our general operating, so we don't add interest to the project. If we get low in cash flow for general operations, then I'll have to transfer the funds across. But so far, we've been able to maintain the project costs just working on our general cash flow. When we get down to the debenture, if we've spent only the 1.366 at Narrow, we would cancel the top end of that authority and just borrow what we would need.
okay. Scott?
and that's one of the reasons why I asked the question, because you have to pay out your holdbacks, because then you know exactly what your number is.
Right.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I assume that probably by the end of this year, we'll be doing that debenture, assuming that
Narrow?
everything goes well.
For Narrow, and
For now,
And if you recall in the financial plan, we provided some slides on our debt ratio and debt borrowing capacity. That comes in a little bit better because of that. And so there's been like proposed debt as well. That's been some of the other things. One of those was for the Guns Creek diversion. And that was based on us coming up with a third because it was presented as an ISIP grant. Now, we've just submitted the proposal for the out of that $15 million that the province announced through the WMR, the water projects that they identified. In that particular case, it's 100% fund grant. So that means that saves us a significant amount of dollars. And that's where I think council then needs to start having some discussions. As an example, if we don't get anywhere and go any further on the Henderson Sewer project for our ISIP grant, the other thing that we've also put forward is as a request to borrow from the Manitoba Water Stewards Board. And so our at that point, we are covered for 50%. But now we have this borrowing authority, and this is where council needs to start saying, okay, do we want to proceed? Because some councils have proceeded on their ISIP grant projects in the last discussions with the minister that they have proceeded with the projects under the Water Services Board borrowing as opposed to the ISIP. So they've gone from 33% to 50% funding. required. And so we may have to have that level of discussion, because if we wait any longer, we've already seen the construction costs escalating every year. So there's that saw-off, like how long can you wait to get these grants, and what can you do to move forward on projects that are priority?
Okay, oh, go ahead.
You're talking construction costs, it's not only construction costs. When we did this project here, what we got hit with was material costs. They were no longer selling us pipe by the foot, they were selling resin by the pound. That's how they started charging us. It's crazy. You didn't know what it was from day to day.
Okay, I believe there is a resolution on the floor that I have a mover and a seconder, but I haven't asked for the vote yet, and that is to accept the May 31st, 2020 financial statement as presented. So, have a mover, have a seconder. I'll call the question if there are no more questions. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, we have no bylaws, and we are into communications for information. I guess I do have a question. I know Colleen had sent a note about the service pins. Did you want to do those while the staff was still here, or how did you want to do that, Mr. Administrator?
I would like to pass the service pins while the staff are still here,
Okay. Okay.
and the members of council are still here.
Right, so should we do them now before we do our council reports? Because I don't know how long it's going to take us to do the communications for info. There's not really a whole heck of a lot there. You may have a little bit more to discuss on 971 Bill 48.
I have a lot more to discuss in Bill 48.
Okay, so maybe we should do them now then.
Do the pins right now?
Yeah.
Certainly, we'll, give me a minute on.
I'm going to ask Heather to pause our recording for a couple of minutes till we get a little better organized here, and then we'll
Take a
start.
break.
Yeah.
If you have 5.
Thanks for reminding me. Got the email that was going to do it.
No, council, right?
Council members this time around, yeah.
Tucked in that corner there. I know, cozy right in there.
Aren't you frozen back there?
Yes.
No,
I turned it down once, but it turned down again.
again.
Holy crap.
I was gonna think, did you turn it?
I turned it.
What's your,
Maybe you should be turning the temperature.
I'm gonna turn it up, because I'm frozen.